Hello, thanks for joining me again on Rupert Cooks. Lately, for no good reason, I've had Paris bistro food on my mind. Of that, the three classic desserts would be creme caramel, chocolate mousse, and tarte au citron. My French pronunciation isn't that great, but bear with me. The last one being a lemon tart. So that's what we're making today. Let's proceed. Okay, so to make this crust, it's pretty simple. The only difficult thing is you have to make enough crust for 3 tarts because we are using 1 egg, and it's hard to divide that into thirds. So you will need 1 pound of all-purpose flour, about 3 cups. Remember, you really want to get a scale if you don't have one. 10 ounces of cashews, or about 2 cups. 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/3 cup sugar, and 8 ounces or 1 stick of butter at room temperature. And the first thing we're going to do is get out the food processor and start chopping these cashews. All right, so the first thing to do is put our cashews in the food processor, seal it all up. Horrible noise. Get them ground up a little bit there. Then we are going to add our sugar and our flour. This is going to get them chopped up a little bit more and mixed in more better. The reason being is if you get these too finely ground, you're going to get cashew peanut butter. And let's go a little bit more. We want these nuts really mixed in there and ground up. And a bigger food processor might be nice, but already this smells pretty incredible. Next, with our flour, sugar, cashew nut blended concoction in the food mixer bowl with the paddle attachment, we are going to add our room temperature butter and our egg and our 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we are going to turn it on slowly and go until everything is combined. Okay, once all the ingredients are combined in the mixer, you are going to wind up with a fairly non-cohesive dough. But if you smush it together with your hands, it'll get there. Like a lot of pie crust doughs, this is not the easiest thing to work with. It's not like bread dough. It sort of falls apart and all that kind of stuff, and you just got to make do. So, let's get this into a more substantial pancake. So we've got it all set up, and we are going to divide it into thirds. So going 120 degrees apart, there we go. We're going to wrap up each third in plastic wrap and refrigerate for half an hour or so. So I've had my oven preheated to 350 for a bit, and while it was preheating, I heavily buttered and floured my 9-inch tart pan with the loose bottom style. And what we're going to do is press our dough into the pan all the way around. This is kind of like a graham cracker crust, as you can see. You're not really rolling this out, you're just pressing this into place here. And the idea is to get it as even as you can all the way around, which can be a little bit frustrating, but you can see it sort of goes in there pretty easily. And we're just going to go around and sort of pinch it up into the walls very firmly, which is why you want to make sure you have your pan, even though it's Teflon, which you know I'm not the biggest fan of. You want to make sure you have that really floured. And what I'm doing is I'm feeling around here at the inside corner there to make sure I don't have too much buildup. Otherwise, we're going to get something really heavy. Then I'm going to go around, get it really pressed in there, and look for light spots. You can feel it and you can kind of see them, but you can see it sort of goes in there and makes a pretty nice crust. And I'm looking to see if I have any big bevel going on here, which would indicate a lot of heaviness there in the inside corner. Feeling around, pressing some more, and it can kind of go on for a bit. But there we go. That's pretty much got it. Now let's go ahead and use this up. And next, I'm going to put it on a baking sheet and pop it in the oven and bake this crust. Okay, so I've baked the crust 12 minutes, then rotated it 180 degrees and done it another 12 minutes. As you can see, it's a nice golden brown. There are some cracks in here, but that's totally okay. And we are going to leave this here off the baking sheet to cool while we do the rest of the pie. So let's get to that. So for the next part, we will be doing a double boiler arrangement. And we'll be doing something known as the Sabayon, which is the French version of Italian Sabayon. And we will be doing it in a metal bowl over about an inch and a half of water boiling in this pot. So we need a bowl that is going to fit so that the bottom of it is not touching the water. And a good way to check for that is to put the bowl in, put your finger where it meets, then sort of hold it and look using our finger as a guide, and we can see we've got like a solid 2 inches there. So this will work. You need to really check this, because if the bottom of this bowl is in the water, it's going to get too hot, and especially at a low point, because we're using the stainless steel bowl, which doesn't conduct heat that well. You really need to check that, because a lot of times appearances can be deceiving. The other thing is this really should be a metal bowl, not your big glass mixing bowl. And the reason for that is even though this is stainless, it's going to transmit the heat a lot better than a big glass bowl. Plus, the big glass bowl is going to retain heat forever, whereas, you know, the second you turn this off, this will start to cool down. And that's very important for the process that we're going to be doing here. So let's get to it. Okay, next we are going to need 2 whole eggs, 2 egg yolks, 3/4 cup of sugar, and then we're going to need a 1/2 cup of fresh lemon juice. This is one of those situations where you cannot use bottled lemon juice. So I'm just going to squeeze these in here. And I never know exactly how juicy any lemon is going to be, so I sort of make it a point to have more than enough. That's 1, and oh boy, we're going to be using at least 3 of these. And I'm not really worried too much about the pits or anything like that, because I'm going to strain this before adding it. Yep, 3 lemons. It looks like 2.5 lemons. That's what I wound up using. I would make sure to have at least 3 or 4. All right, and let's just get our lemon juice all strained and squared away. You should add, if you want to do lemon zest in this as well, you can. I don't really feel that it needs it. I kind of like it to be just the juice for this, which is strange because usually I'm a big fan of lemon zest, but we're not doing that here. Okay, so now we are going to add our sugar, our 2 eggs, and our egg yolks, both egg yolks. And we're going to whisk. I don't know why I sort of like this whisk for these because it has this little inner ball that sort of makes for a faster action. And we are trying to get these both mixed up as well as get this kind of lighter color that happens when you mix eggs and sugar and whisk it. So we're going to whisk it for about a minute here and get these nice and mixed up, rotating the bowl a little bit, you know, put some effort into it. I always feel a little lame because a whisk for a minute doesn't seem that bad, but yet when you're doing it, it's an eternity. I could do this in the mixer, I know, but sometimes you gotta go back to ye days of old so you can appreciate the pain when your mixer breaks. Anticipate it, maybe, is a better word. Okay, we've got our water up to a nice, pretty heavy simmer there. We don't want any crazy boiling going on. So we're going to put our eggs over it and we're going to whisk whilst rotating the bowl. And we're going to do this for about 2 minutes until the eggs get foamy and the mixture kind of thickens a little bit. If I didn't mention this before, when you add your eggs in the previous step, those should be cold eggs, not room temperature eggs. In about 2 minutes, this should start thickening up some. Okay, you see how these eggs, I've been going a little over 2 minutes, and you see how it's starting to leave a pattern right there on the side of the bowl for just a second afterwards? That's the eggs thickening up, and they're foaming a little bit, so I'm going to add about 1/3 of our lemon juice here. And keep going. Now you see how that pattern kind of went away a little bit. It thins down just a teeniest bit, obviously because you've added the eggs, because you've added the lemon juice to it, so that thins it down. So now we're trying to cook the eggs back up again. And you have to do this continuously, otherwise you get lemony scrambled eggs. All right, and I'm seeing that pattern start to hold there a little bit more. I can feel it stiffening up a little bit. It's going to wind up being roughly adding the lemon juice 1/3 at a time around every 2 minutes, because that's how long it took us to get to the thickening stage in the first place. And this is starting to look pretty close to where we were at the beginning. Those eggs are thickening up a little bit more. Let's go with another 1/3. And the final 1/3, making sure, scraping these sides here, because that stuff is cooking up a lot faster. And you could get nasty little scrambled egg bits in your custard if you don't do it. And we're probably going to go another 2 minutes here or so. And we're trying to get to the stage where we can run our whisk through the Sabayon and leave a little trail. That's pretty much it. Right about there, you see that little trail? Something kind of definable. Give this bowl a little bit more of a scrape down. And you can see that's thickened up quite a bit. So, turn off the heat, leave the bowl over the hot water. Okay, the heat is off. This is thick. And now I have 6 tablespoons of butter cut into 6 pieces. Cold, not room temperature. I'm going to whisk in each one. And this is probably going to break a little bit as I whisk in each one. But then it'll come back together again because we're still cooking with the residual heat left over from our water. We're just kind of cooking less vigorously. So that's one piece in. And the next piece. This stuff is pretty hot, so the butter goes in quickly. And what the butter's doing is it's helped cooling down. It's helped to cool things down a little bit. That's why you want it cold. So you don't get scrambled lemon eggs. Although if you do get scrambled lemon eggs, you could probably just serve them up and eat them. And let's throw in another piece. And the last piece. And now we're just whisking it up, even though the butter's melted, to make sure that the Sabayon thickens up a little bit more after adding all that butter to it. And you can see we're leaving trails in there, so we're pretty much good at this point. Okay, you can see this is set up a little bit. This literally was like 2 minutes. I've adjusted the oven to broil and moved the rack into the top position because we're going to do my most hated oven thing, putting things I've spent a lot of time on into the broiler. But you can see this is set up quite a bit just sitting there. And we're going to smooth it out because we are just broiling the top of this. So not going to have much settling action going on here. God, that is annoying. As always, loose bottom tart pan means accidents can happen. So I'm setting it on a jelly roll pan just in case the unthinkable happens. And then I'm going to set it in the broiler. Okay, my broiler is preheated. I'm throwing in my tart on the upper rack. I am leaving the door open. Lunatic. Why? Because that thing is hot and we're going just for a few seconds here just to brown the top a little bit. Damn it! Okay, so when your tart comes out, you want to put it on a wire rack to cool, and it has to cool for at least an hour. You might even want to put this in the refrigerator after that hour and serve it cold because it is designed to be served cold. To give you an idea, this is fairly brown. I think any more brown than this and that might be trouble, but that's about where we're at. The custard is set up nicely. And to give you an idea, this was 5 seconds under the broiler, spin it 180 degrees, another 5 seconds. Like, that's how quick it was. So you cannot step away at all while doing this. I first got into the Paris Bistro kind of stuff in New York when I was growing up. My mother used to like to go to jazz clubs when I was in my later teens, like 16, 17 years old, and nobody else would go with her, so I would go with her. We'd go to the jazz clubs, and we lived 2 blocks away from the Village Vanguard. And afterwards, we would go to, one of the late night cafes and have a little pastry and call it an evening. But I really love this kind of stuff, and I hope I do a few more like I mentioned at the beginning of this. At any rate, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Rupert Cooks. Thanks again.